The combat arena smelled like sweat and blood. Taemin could taste copper in his mouth as he struggled to stand. His left eye was swelling shut, and he was pretty sure at least 2 of his ribs were cracked. The pain shot through his chest with every breath, but he refused to fall. Not yet. Not while they were all watching. Around him, 5 Raktash cadets circled like sharks. They were huge, each one standing over 7 feet tall with scales that gleamed under the arena lights. Their clawed hands flexed as they moved, and their eyes glowed with something between amusement and contempt. The largest one, Dral, stepped forward with a grin that showed too many teeth. "The human still stands," Dral said in the common tongue, his voice carrying across the arena. "I am almost impressed. Most species would have surrendered by now." Taemin spat blood onto the mat. "Then you haven't been hitting hard enough." It was the wrong thing to say. He knew it the moment the words left his mouth, but he couldn't help himself. His father had always said his pride would get him killed one day. Today might be that day. Dryl's grin vanished. He lunged forward with frightening speed for something so large. His fist caught Taemin in the stomach, driving the air from his lungs. Taemin doubled over, and another Vraktesh hit him from behind. He went down hard, tasting the rubber of the training mat against his face. This was supposed to be a simple sparring match. 20 minutes ago, when the training session started, Master Vex had paired Taemin with the Vraktesh group for what he called a tactical exercise. The rules were clear. No lethal force. Stop when someone surrenders or loses consciousness. Simple enough. But the Vraktesh had other ideas. They'd found a loophole in the regulations. As long as the fight stayed within the arena circle and their opponent didn't surrender, they could continue indefinitely. It was meant for extended combat scenarios, not for entertainment. Not for this. Taemin rolled onto his back and tried to focus his vision. Through the haze of pain, he could see the observation gallery. Hundreds of cadets from dozens of species watched from the safety of the reinforced glass. Some looked concerned. Most looked fascinated. A few were placing bets. He was one of only 3 humans at the Galactic Coalition Military Academy. Humanity had joined the coalition 5 years ago, barely surviving their own planetary conflicts long enough to achieve faster than light travel. To most of the galaxy, humans were a curiosity. Weak, fragile creatures from a backwater world who somehow stumbled into the stars. The Academy had accepted human cadets as a gesture of goodwill. Taemin had been so proud when he received his acceptance letter. He'd imagined representing humanity, proving they belonged among the stars. Instead, he was getting beaten into the ground while aliens made jokes about his species. A clawed foot pressed down on his chest. Dral leaned over him, applying just enough pressure to make breathing difficult. "Surrender, human. This is embarrassing for both of us." Taemin's hand shot out and grabbed Dral's ankle. He twisted hard, using a technique his old martial arts instructor had taught him back on Earth. For a moment, surprise flashed across Dral's face. Then the Vraktesh simply shifted his weight, and the leverage Taemin was counting on disappeared. The scales were too thick, the muscles too strong. Dral kicked him away casually, like brushing off an insect. Interesting. The human knows some tricks, but tricks are not strength. Taemin forced himself to his hands and knees. Every part of his body screamed at him to stay down, to surrender, to make the pain stop. But he thought about the other 2 humans at the Academy. If he gave up now, it would reflect on all of them. Earth had sent 3 representatives to show humanity could survive in the larger galaxy. What would it mean if the first real test ended with him crying for mercy? "Come on then," Taemin said, his voice rough. He managed to get to one knee, then slowly to his feet. The arena spun around him, but he stayed upright through sheer stubbornness. Is this all the mighty Vraktesh have? I've had worse beatings from my little sister." He was lying. His sister was an accountant who'd never thrown a punch in her life. But Drow didn't know that. The other 4 Vraktesh closed in. They were done playing now. Taemin tried to fight back, tried to use his speed and technique to even the odds. For a few seconds, he actually succeeded. His fist connected with a Vraktesh throat. His elbow found another one's solar plexus. Humans might be smaller, but they'd spent thousands of years learning how to fight things bigger than themselves. Then a tail swept his legs out from under him. A clawed hand caught his shoulder, spinning him around. Another fist slammed into his kidney. Taemin felt something crack, felt the world start to fade at the edges. He was going to lose consciousness soon. His body was shutting down, protecting itself from further damage. In the observation gallery, Master Vex watched with 6 unblinking eyes. The Quellan instructor made notes on a datapad, studying the fight with academic interest. He could stop this at any moment. Academy regulations gave instructors absolute authority during training. But Vex didn't move. This was a learning opportunity, he would later claim. The human needed to understand his limitations. Droll grabbed Taemin by the throat and lifted him off his feet. "Last chance, human. Surrender." Taemin tried to answer, but his vision was going dark. His body wasn't responding anymore. He'd pushed it too far. Through the haze, he could see Drow's fist drawing back for what would probably be the final blow. The one that would crack his skull or break his neck despite the non-lethal rules. Then the arena doors exploded. The sound was like thunder. Metal shrieked as the reinforced entrance slammed open with enough force to dent the walls. Dust and smoke rolled into the arena, and through it walked a figure that made every head turn. She was human, female, smaller than Taemin, maybe 5.5 feet tall. Her hair was pulled back in a tight braid, and her academy uniform was dirty from travel. She walked with the kind of confidence that made predators nervous, her eyes scanning the scene with cold precision. Droll dropped Taemin, who collapsed to the mat gasping for air. The 5 Rakdash turned to face this interruption, confused. Who was this? Why did she dare enter an active combat scenario? The woman's gaze swept over Taemin's broken form, then locked onto Drell. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, but somehow filled the entire arena. "My name is Cadet Ji Woo, and I'm invoking Regulation 47C. Challenge for honor." Master Vex's multiple eyes widened. In the observation gallery, cadets who knew the regulations started murmuring. Regulation 47C was ancient, rarely used. It allowed any cadet to challenge on behalf of a teammate who'd been subjected to disproportionate force. Draw laughed. "Another human? This one is even smaller. Step aside, female. This does not concern you." Ji Woo didn't step aside. She stepped forward into the arena circle. Once inside, the fight was official. No one could stop it until someone surrendered or fell. She looked at Taemin, and something almost like a smile crossed her face. "Rest. I'll take it from here." Then she turned back to the 5 Rakdesh warriors, and the smile disappeared. What replaced it made Taemin's blood run cold despite his injuries. He'd seen that look before, in videos from Earth's old wars. It was the look of someone who knew exactly how to kill and was deciding whether to. Drell moved first, his earlier confidence returning. A human female who weighed maybe half what he did? This would be over in seconds. He threw a punch that had ended dozens of matches, a devastating overhead strike that would crush bone. Ji Woo moved. She didn't block. She didn't dodge away. She stepped into the punch, redirecting it past her shoulder with one hand while her other hand locked onto Drell's elbow. Her foot hooked behind his knee. She twisted, using his own momentum and strength against him. Drow, the largest and strongest of the Rakdesh cadets, flew through the air and slammed into the mat so hard the impact echoed through the arena. Before he could react, Jiwoo's elbow came down on a pressure point in his neck. The huge alien's eyes rolled back, and he went limp. 4 seconds. That's how long it took. The arena fell absolutely silent. The remaining 4 Vraktesh stared in disbelief at their fallen leader. In the observation gallery, cadets pressed against the glass, trying to understand what they'd just witnessed. Jiwoo straightened slowly. She looked at the 4 remaining Vraktesh, then cracked her knuckles with deliberate precision. Who's next? The 4 remaining Vraktesh didn't move for several seconds. They stared at Drill's unconscious body, then at the small human female who'd put him there. Their brains struggled to process what had just happened. Drow was their best fighter, the strongest among them. He didn't lose, especially not to someone half his size. Jiwoo didn't wait for them to figure it out. She moved toward the nearest Vraktesh, her footsteps silent on the training mat. The alien finally reacted, raising his clawed hands in a defensive posture. It was the correct response according to Vraktesh combat doctrine, protecting the throat and face while maintaining balance. Jiwoo didn't care about correct responses. She dropped low, sweeping the Vraktesh's legs. As he fell, she rose with him, her elbow connecting with his throat in a precise strike that collapsed his airway. Not permanently, but enough to take him out of the fight. He hit the ground choking, clawing at his neck. The other 3 finally understood the danger. They attacked together, abandoning their earlier arrogance for genuine combat coordination. One went high, one went low, the third circled to flank. It was a standard pack hunting technique used by dozens of species across the galaxy. They'd never hunted a human before. Jiwoo's body moved like water, flowing between their attacks. A clawed hand passed inches from her face. She grabbed the wrist, stepped inside the Vraktesh's guard, and drove her knee into his leg joint. The crack was audible throughout the arena. The Vraktesh screamed and went down, his leg bending in a direction nature never intended. The 4th Vraktesh managed to grab her from behind, wrapping massive arms around her torso in a crushing hold. His muscles flexed, applying pressure that would have snapped a normal human spine. Jiwoo's face tightened in pain, but she didn't panic. Instead, she slammed her head backward, the back of her skull connecting with the Vraktesh's snout. Cartilage crunched. His grip loosened for just a moment. That was all she needed. Jiwoo dropped her weight, slipping through his arms, then spun and delivered 3 rapid strikes to his ribs. Each impact was precise, targeted, devastating. The Vraktesh's breath left him in a wheeze, and he staggered back. The 5th and final Vraktesh, seeing his companions falling around him, made a decision. His hands came up in the universal surrender gesture, palms forward, head bowed. I yield. I yield. Jiwoo's fist was already moving. For a terrible moment, it looked like she would ignore the surrender and finish the strike anyway. Her knuckles were inches from the Vraktesh's face when she stopped. Her entire body trembled with the effort of halting her momentum. She held the position for 3 seconds, fist frozen in the air. The Vraktesh didn't dare move. Finally, Jiwoo stepped back. Her hand dropped to her side, but her eyes never left the alien. Get your friends to medical, she said quietly. All of them. The standing Vraktesh didn't need to be told twice. He scrambled to help his injured companions, dragging them toward the arena exit. Medical teams were already rushing in with stretchers and equipment. Within minutes, all 5 Vraktesh were being carried away, leaving only Jiwoo standing in the center of the arena, and Taemin still lying on the mat where Drow had dropped him. Jiwoo walked over and knelt beside him. Her hands moved over his injuries with professional efficiency, checking for serious damage. Broken ribs, definitely. Possible internal bleeding. Concussion for sure. Can you stand? Taemin tried to answer, but only managed to groan. Ji-woo slipped her arm under his shoulders and lifted, taking most of his weight. For someone so small, she was incredibly strong. Not Raktash strong, but strong enough. Who are you? Taemin managed to ask as she helped him toward the exit. The third human cadet, Ji-woo answered. I've been on deep space survival training for the past 6 months. Got back about 20 minutes ago. She glanced at his face, and something that might have been sympathy crossed her features. Looks like I should have returned sooner. In the observation gallery, Master Vex finally moved. His 6 arms worked frantically at his datapad, pulling up the combat recording and reviewing it frame by frame. Around him, cadets from dozens of species talked in hushed, urgent tones. What they just witnessed didn't match anything in their understanding of humans. A Phallidy cadet named Instructor Kara leaned over Vex's shoulder, her cat-like eyes studying the playback. Run it at quarter speed, she suggested. During the third engagement, Vex complied. The footage slowed, showing Ji-woo's movements in detail. What had seemed like chaotic violence at full speed revealed itself to be something else entirely. Every motion had purpose. Every strike hit specific targets, nerve clusters, joint vulnerabilities, pressure points. She wasn't fighting with brute strength. She was fighting with surgical precision. I've never seen combat techniques like this, Kara said softly. It's not Raktash heavy combat. It's not Skorvath honor fighting. It's something else entirely. Vex's fingers danced across the datapad, pulling up humanity's species file from the Galactic Coalition database. The entry was brief, compiled from initial contact reports 5 years ago. Humans were classified as Category 4, low physical threat. The file noted their lack of natural weapons, their fragile bone structure, their short lifespan and limited sensory capabilities. This file is wrong, Vex said. Or incomplete. Very incomplete. Down in the medical bay, Ji-woo watched as doctors worked on Taemin. The Academy's medical technology was impressive, capable of healing injuries that would have been permanent on Earth. They sealed his broken ribs, reduced the swelling, treated the internal bruising. Within an hour, he was sitting up, still sore but functional. Thank you, Taemin said when they were finally alone. You saved my life. Drow was about to. I know, Ji-woo interrupted. I saw the whole thing on the security feed before I entered. She leaned against the wall, her earlier intensity fading into something like exhaustion. That's why I came in hard. Had to make a statement. You definitely made a statement. Taemin tried to laugh, but it hurt too much. Where did you learn to fight like that? Earth, Ji-woo answered simply. I was military before joining the Academy. Special Forces. When the Coalition accepted human cadets, they specifically requested someone with combat experience. I volunteered. She looked at her hands, flexing her fingers slowly. I didn't expect to use that training so soon. A chime sounded at the medical bay entrance. A moment later, a security officer entered. He was Arkelian, his crystalline body refracting the light into rainbow patterns. Cadet Gu, you're required to report to the Disciplinary Council immediately. Ji-woo nodded and stood. She looked at Taemin one more time. Rest, heal, and next time someone tries to beat you down, remember, humans don't quit, ever. That's our advantage. We're too stubborn to know when we're beaten. As she left with the security officer, Taemin lay back on the medical bed. His body ached, but his mind was racing. In 6 months at the Academy, he'd been treated as a curiosity, sometimes a joke. The other species were stronger, faster, tougher. He'd started to believe maybe humans really didn't belong here. Then Ji-woo had walked into that arena and destroyed 5 Raktash warriors in under 2 minutes. She'd moved like violence given form, like something from Earth's old legends. And she'd done it to protect him, a fellow human she'd never even met. Maybe humans did belong here after all. Maybe they just needed to stop trying to match the other species on their terms. Humans had spent thousands of years learning to survive on a planet that tried to kill them every single day. They'd hunted animals larger and more dangerous than themselves. They'd fought wars that lasted generations. They'd nearly destroyed themselves a dozen times over and somehow always came back. The galaxy thought humans were weak because they weren't covered in scales or armed with claws. But they'd never seen what humans could do with nothing but determination and a refusal to accept defeat. Taemin smiled despite the pain. The Vraktesh had tried to teach him a lesson today. Instead, they'd learned one: never corner a human. And never ever assume that soft skin means soft spirit. In the disciplinary council chambers, Ji Woo stood at attention while 5 senior officers reviewed the arena footage. The council consisted of representatives from different species, each bringing their own perspective on combat and military conduct. At the center sat Commander Thess, an Archelian whose crystalline features reflected no emotion. "Cadet Ji Woo," Thess said, his voice like wind chimes. "You stand accused of excessive force, failure to recognize surrender, and causing injuries that will require extensive medical treatment. How do you respond to these charges?" Ji Woo met his crystalline gaze without flinching. "I followed Academy regulations, Commander. Regulation 47C allowed me to challenge on behalf of Cadet Taemin. Everything I did occurred within an active combat scenario in the designated arena. I stopped when medical teams arrived. And the surrender?" asked another council member, a 6-limbed Quellan. "You merely struck a cadet who had clearly yielded." "Nearly," Ji Woo emphasized. "But I stopped. And before that moment, I had no obligation to trust a surrender from an opponent who was still combat capable. Vraktesh doctrine teaches that warriors may feign weakness to trap enemies. I learned that in my tactical studies." The council members exchanged glances. She was right technically. Everything she'd done fell within the rules, if barely. "Commander, the disciplinary council deliberated for 3 hours. Ji Woo stood at attention the entire time, her face neutral as the 5 senior officers reviewed combat footage, consulted regulation manuals, and debated in low tones. Through the chamber's tall windows, she could see the academy grounds where other cadets went about their training, unaware that human history in the coalition was being decided in this room. Finally, Commander Thess called the council back to order. His crystalline features caught the light as he addressed Ji Woo. "This council has reached a decision. The charges against you are dismissed." Relief washed through Ji Woo, though she didn't let it show on her face. "However," Thess continued, "you are assigned to mandatory counseling sessions. Your combat response, while technically legal, showed concerning levels of aggression. You will meet with the Academy psychologist twice weekly for the next month." "Yes, Commander," Ji Woo said. "As for the Vraktesh cadets, they have been placed on academic probation for unsportsmanlike conduct and exploitation of training regulations. The loopholes they used will be closed." Thess paused, his voice taking on a more serious tone. "But that is not the real issue here, is it, Cadet?" Ji Woo remained silent, unsure where this was going. Instructor Kara, the Phality officer, spoke up from her position on the council. "We've reviewed humanity's species file in our database. It's woefully inadequate. Category 4, low physical threat? After what we witnessed today, that classification is clearly wrong." The Quellan officer, Master Vex, gestured with 2 of his 6 arms at a hovering display screen. "The file mentions your lack of natural weapons and armor. It notes your fragility. What it doesn't mention is this." The screen showed Ji Woo's combat techniques in slow motion, each strike labeled with its target and effect. Systematic combat knowledge, precision targeting, tactical adaptation. How does a species develop these capabilities? Ji Woo considered her answer carefully. Necessity, sir. Earth wasn't a kind planet. Humans evolved as persistent predators. We couldn't outrun prey, so we outlasted them. We couldn't overpower larger predators, so we outsmarted them. For thousands of years, we refined techniques to defeat enemies bigger and stronger than ourselves. And you developed these techniques while fighting each other, Thess observed. Your planet's history is filled with conflict. Yes, Commander. Humans spend most of their history at war. With nature, with animals, with each other. We developed thousands of fighting styles, each one refined over centuries. What you saw in the arena wasn't one technique. It was a combination of dozens, adapted for effectiveness against larger opponents. The council exchanged glances. A species that spent millennia perfecting the art of combat while barely surviving their own aggression. No wonder their database entry was incomplete. The initial contact teams had met humans during their recovery period, after the climate wars nearly destroyed them. They'd seen a broken species struggling to rebuild, not warriors resting between battles. This changes things, Thess said quietly. You're dismissed, Cadet Gi Woo. But understand that your actions today have consequences beyond yourself. Every species in this academy will now view humans differently. Some with respect, others with fear, and some with desire to prove themselves against you. As Ji Woo left the council chambers, she found Tae-min waiting in the corridor. He'd cleaned up and changed uniforms, but she could still see the fading bruises on his face. Medical technology was good, but not perfect. How did it go? He asked. Cleared of charges. Assigned counseling. The Vraktesh got probation. Ji Woo started walking, and Tae-min fell into step beside her. But that's not what worries me. What does? We painted a target on ourselves. Every warrior species in the academy is going to want to test themselves against humans now. They'll want to prove today was a fluke. They walked in silence for a moment, passing other cadets in the corridor. Ji Woo noticed the stares, the whispers. Some cadets stepped aside to let them pass. Others watched with calculating eyes, already planning their challenges. When they reached the residential wing, Tae-min stopped. Can I ask you something? In the arena, when you fought the Vraktesh, were you scared? Ji Woo considered the question. Terrified. They were bigger, stronger, and there were 5 of them. Any one of them could have killed me if they'd gotten a solid hit. But fear is just another survival tool. It makes you faster, sharper, more aware. Humans learn to use fear instead of being paralyzed by it. How do I learn that? How do I become someone who can fight like you? You don't, Ji Woo said bluntly. I've spent 15 years training. You've been here 6 months. But you don't need to fight like me. You need to fight like Tae-min. Find your strengths and weaponize them. Over the next few days, word of the arena fight spread throughout the academy. The combat footage somehow leaked onto the academy network, and suddenly every cadet had seen Ji Woo take down 5 Vraktesh warriors. Reactions varied wildly. Some species, particularly the less combat-oriented ones, approached the humans with new respect. A group of Draconian cadets, small reptilian beings who specialized in engineering, invited Tae-min to study with them. They wanted to understand human tactics, human thinking. Others responded with hostility. A Skorvath warrior named Krell, one of the Academy's top-ranked fighters, publicly requested a match with Ji Woo in next month's grand tournament. The Skorvath were massive, bear-like beings who valued honor combat above all else. Krell considered Ji Woo's victory an insult to proper warrior culture. And some, like Instructor Kara, responded with fascination. The faculty officer started pulling up every piece of human media available in the Coalition database. Earth's historical archives, entertainment, educational materials. She watched footage of human wars, human sports, human martial arts demonstrations. What she discovered amazed her. Boxing, wrestling, judo, karate, kung fu, kickboxing, Krav Maga, and hundreds of other fighting styles. Humans had systematized violence to a degree no other species had matched. They studied combat like science, refined it like art, taught it like philosophy. In her office, Kara compiled a report. She noted how human endurance allowed them to fight for extended periods, how their throwing accuracy let them use projectiles as weapons, how their fine motor control enabled precise strikes, how their pattern recognition helped them predict opponent movements. Individually, these weren't unique traits. Together, they created something formidable. She titled her report, Reassessment of Human Combat Capabilities. Threat Classification Update Required. Meanwhile, Ji Woo began training Taemin properly. Every morning before classes, they met in a private training room. She didn't teach him to fight like her. Instead, she focused on basics: footwork, distance management, situational awareness, target selection. Humans can't match Fraktesh strength, she explained during one session. So we don't try. We use leverage, physics. We make them fight on our terms, not theirs. She demonstrated, having Taemin attempt to grab her. When he did, she showed him 3 different ways to escape using minimal force. See? I'm not overpowering your grip. I'm exploiting the weak points. Your thumb is the weakest part of any grip. Break the thumb line, and the whole hold fails. Taemin practiced the techniques, slowly at first, then with increasing speed. His body remembered more than his mind did. Earth was still in him, still part of him. Millions of years of evolution hadn't disappeared just because humans reached the stars. Word of their training session spread. Soon, other cadets began watching through the observation windows. Some mocked the idea of humans training humans. But others, the smarter ones, watched and learned. A group of Quellan cadets approached Ji Woo one afternoon. Their species wasn't built for heavy combat. Their 6 arms meant for precision work rather than fighting. Would you teach us? Their leader asked. Your techniques rely on precision, not strength. That suits us better than Fraktesh heavy combat doctrine. Ji Woo agreed, and suddenly she was teaching classes. Unofficial, unsanctioned, but attended by cadets who understood that there was more than one way to fight. She taught them nerve strikes, joint locks, pressure point targeting, techniques that worked regardless of your size or strength. The Academy administration noticed but didn't intervene. Commander Thess watched the recordings of these sessions with interest. Humans were sharing knowledge freely, helping other species adapt their techniques. It was the opposite of what he'd feared. Instead of humans trying to dominate through superior combat skills, they were becoming teachers. One evening, Taemin found Ji Woo sitting alone in the observation dome, looking out at the stars. He joined her in silence for a moment before speaking. Do you think we made a mistake? Coming here. What do you mean? Everyone sees us differently now. Some are afraid. Some want to fight us. We're not just another species anymore. We're something else. Ji Woo was quiet for a long moment. I think the mistake was believing we could blend in. Humans don't blend. We adapt. We change things around us. That's what we've always done. She pointed at the stars. Somewhere out there are thousands of human colonies. Millions of humans living normal lives. But here, in this academy, we're representatives. That means accepting that we'll be watched, tested, challenged. The week before the grand tournament passed in a blur of training and tension. Jiwoo pushed Taemin harder than he'd ever been pushed before. She woke him before dawn, ran him through drills until his muscles screamed, then made him study combat footage until his eyes burned. "You're going to face Drawl and 3 other Vraktesh," she said during one brutal morning session. "You can't beat them with strength. You can't outrun them. So what's your advantage?" Taemin, gasping for breath after his 20th set of footwork drills, tried to think. "Speed? Wrong. They're faster than you in short bursts." Jiwoo circled him like a predator. "Think about what humans are good at. Endurance? Better. But you need more than that against 4 opponents." "What else?" Taemin's mind raced back to his history classes on Earth. He thought about human evolution, about how their ancestors survived. Planning? Tactics? Jiwoo smiled. It was the first time Taemin had seen her really smile. "Now you're getting it. Humans are the only species that can throw accurately while running. We're the only ones that can track prey for days without losing the trail. We can predict patterns, set traps, think 3 moves ahead. That's what you'll use against the Vraktesh." She pulled up a holographic display of the tournament arena. The quarterfinal matches take place in urban combat scenarios. Buildings, obstacles, choke points. You're not fighting in an open arena. You're fighting in an environment you can manipulate. Over the next few days, they practiced urban combat tactics. Jiwoo taught Taemin how to use corners for ambush, how to create distractions, how to separate grouped opponents and take them down one at a time. It wasn't honorable fighting. It was survival fighting. Human fighting. The other species will call it cowardly, Jiwoo warned. They'll say you're not facing them properly. Ignore them. Humans didn't become apex predators by fighting fair. We became apex predators by winning. Meanwhile, curiosity about humans continued to grow throughout the academy. Instructor Kara had published her report on human combat capabilities, and it spread through the coalition network like wildfire. Military analysts, xenobiologists, and combat specialists across dozens of worlds were suddenly requesting more information about Earth. A delegation of Felity cadets approached Jiwoo after one training session. Their leader, a cadet named Mira, spoke hesitantly. "We've been watching your techniques. They're nothing like what we've been taught. Could you explain your philosophy?" Jiwoo considered the question. Most species develop one traditional fighting style based on their natural advantages. Vraktesh use overwhelming force. Skorvath use honor duels. Your species uses precision strikes with your claws. She paused. Humans developed thousands of fighting styles because we had no natural advantages. We had to learn everything from scratch. Then we combined the best parts of each style. But how do you know which technique to use? Another Felity asked. Adaptation. Humans are really good at reading situations and adjusting. We pattern match constantly. When the first fought the Vraktesh, I assessed their tactics in real time and counted them. It's not about memorizing moves. It's about understanding principles. The Felity cadets looked at each other, then back at Jiwoo. Would you teach us? Myra asked. Not to fight like humans, but to think like humans? Jiwoo agreed, and soon she was running informal study groups. Cadets from multiple species attended, asking questions about human tactics, strategy, and combat philosophy. The administration still didn't interfere. Commander, Thash seemed content to let this experiment play out. During one session, a young Draconid cadet asked the question everyone was thinking. Are humans predators or prey? The room fell silent. It was a fundamental question in galactic society. Species were generally classified into one of those two categories based on their evolutionary history. Predators tended toward aggression and dominance. Prey species developed intelligence and cooperation. Humans didn't seem to fit either category cleanly. Both, Jiwoo answered. Humans are predators. We hunted, we killed, we ate meat. But we were also prey. Larger predators hunted us. We had to develop tools and weapons to survive. So we understand both sides. We know how to hunt, and we know how to avoid being hunted. That seems like it would create conflict, the Draconian observed. Internal conflict. It does, Jiwoo admitted. Humans are contradictory. We're violent and peaceful, aggressive and cooperative, selfish and altruistic. We contain multitudes, as one of our poets said. That's what makes us adaptable. We can be whatever the situation requires. The implications of that statement rippled through the assembled cadets. A species that could switch between predator and prey mentalities at will. No wonder humans were hard to classify. Across campus, Taemin had his own challenges. The Vraktesh team he would face had been training specifically to counter human tactics. Dral, humiliated by his loss to Jiwoo, was obsessed with proving that humans weren't special. He studied every piece of footage available, looking for patterns and weaknesses. One afternoon, Taemin encountered Drell in the dining hall. The large Vraktesh approached his table, and Taemin tensed, ready for another confrontation. But Dral didn't attack. Instead, he sat down across from the human, his expression unreadable. I have been thinking about our first encounter, Dral said slowly. When I beat you in the arena, you did not fight like your female counterpart. You tried to match my strength. Why? Taemin set down his food. Because I didn't know any better. I'd been taught to fight other humans, roughly my size. I tried to apply those same techniques to you. And now? Jiwoo has been training you. What will you do differently? Why do you want to know? Taemin asked suspiciously. Dral's scaled face shifted in what might have been a smile. Because in 4 days, we fight again. I want it to be a real fight. Not a beating. Not a lesson. A real test of skills. He stood up. Train well, human. I want to face the best you can be. As the Vraktesh walked away, Taemin realized something important. Dral didn't hate him. The earlier beating hadn't been personal. It was cultural. Vraktesh tested each other through combat. They'd been trying to measure him, and he'd failed the test. Now, Dral wanted another chance to see what humans were really capable of. The revelation changed Taemin's perspective. He wasn't just fighting for himself or for humanity's reputation. He was answering a question. Could different species truly understand each other? Could they find common ground despite their different evolutionary paths? 3 days before the tournament, something unexpected happened. Krell, the massive Scorvath warrior who challenged Jiwoo, requested a meeting with both human cadets. They met in a neutral training room, the bear-like alien towering over them. I have studied your species, Krell said without preamble. I have watched your historical combat footage, read your military philosophy, analyzed your techniques. I understand now why you fight the way you do. And? Jiwoo asked. And I believe I was wrong to challenge you in anger. The Scorvath value honor combat, face-to-face, strength against strength. I viewed your tactics as dishonorable because they don't match our traditions. Krell's massive paws gestured as he spoke. But honor is cultural, not universal. What I call honor, you might call stupidity. What you call tactics, I might call cowardice. Neither view is correct. So you're withdrawing your challenge? Taemin asked. No. Krell's expression hardened. I still want to face Jiwoo, but not to prove humans are inferior, to understand them better. Combat is the purest form of communication for warriors. When we fight, we will truly know each other. Jiwoo nodded slowly. I accept that reasoning, and I promise you an honest fight. I won't hold back, and I won't fight dishonorably by your standards. but I will fight to win. I expect nothing less." Krell bowed, a gesture of respect in Skorvath culture. "May the best warrior prevail. And may we both learn something." After he left, Taemin turned to Gi-woo. "Do you think you can beat him?" "I don't know," Ji-woo admitted. "Krell is smart, experienced, and he studied human tactics. He won't make the same mistakes that Rakdesh did. And Skorvath physiology is different from Rakdesh. Tougher, more flexible, better reflexes. It's going to be close, but you'll try." "Of course I'll try. Humans don't quit, remember." Ji-woo smiled, but there was tension in her eyes. "Besides, I told you before, fear is just a tool. I'm terrified of fighting Krell. He could break me in half if he lands a solid hit. But that fear will keep me sharp, keep me focused. I'll use it." The final day before the tournament, the entire academy buzzed with anticipation. Betting pools formed. Tactical analyses circulated. Everyone had an opinion about whether humans could compete at the highest levels. In the human dormitory, Ji-woo and Taemin sat together one last time before the competition began. They didn't talk much. There wasn't much left to say. They'd trained, they'd prepared, they'd done everything they could. "Do you remember what I told you the first day we met?" Ji-woo asked finally. "You said a lot of things. I told you that humans don't quit. That's our advantage." Ji-woo looked at him seriously. "But there's more to it than that. We don't quit because we believe we can win. Even when the odds are impossible, even when we're outmatched, we believe. That belief has carried humans through extinctions, plagues, wars, and disasters. It's the most human thing about us." "What if we lose?" Taemin asked quietly. "Then we lose." The tournament arena transformed for each match type. For the quarterfinals, holographic projectors created a simulated urban environment. Buildings, alleyways, obstacles, and choke points. It was designed to test tactical thinking as much as raw combat ability. Taemin stood at his starting position, studying the layout. Somewhere in this maze were 4 Raktesh warriors, including Drell. The rules were simple: incapacitate or force surrender from all opponents. No time limit. No restrictions except the boundaries of the combat zone. The starting buzzer sounded. Taemin immediately moved away from his insertion point. Ji-woo had drilled this into him. Never stay where your enemy expects you. He climbed to a second-story building, using his human climbing ability to reach positions the heavier Raktesh would struggle with. From his vantage point, he spotted movement. 2 Raktesh moving together, searching the ground level systematically. Taemin smiled. They were hunting him like prey. But humans knew how to turn that advantage around. He picked up a piece of rubble and threw it hard toward a building on his left. The sound drew both Raktesh attention. As they moved to investigate, Taemin circled behind them, staying high. He found what he was looking for, a narrow alley with only one entrance. Taemin set his trap quickly. He loosened several panels on the building walls, positioned them to fall at the right trigger point, then created a noise at the alley's far end. The first Raktesh entered cautiously. The second followed. When they were both inside, Taemin triggered the trap. The panels fell, blocking the exit. Not permanently, but enough to separate them from their teammates. Taemin dropped down behind them. The Raktesh turned, surprised, and Taemin immediately threw a handful of dust into their faces. While they were blinded, he used the environment against them, kicking structural supports to bring debris down on one Raktesh, then using a joint lock technique on the second. 2 down, 2 to go. The next phase was harder. Dral and his remaining teammate knew something was wrong. They moved more carefully, covering each other's backs. Taemin couldn't separate them with the same tricks. He needed a different approach. He remembered Jiwoo's lessons about endurance. Raktash were built for explosive power, not sustained activity. So Taemin led them on a chase. He appeared, attacked quickly, then retreated before they could retaliate. He made them climb, made them run, made them waste energy trying to catch him. 15 minutes into the match, he could see them tiring. Their movements were slower, their reactions less sharp. Humans could maintain physical activity for hours. Raktash couldn't. When Drow was finally alone, his teammate having collapsed from exhaustion, Taemin faced him directly. This time, it wasn't about tricks or traps. It was about proving he'd learned, that he'd grown. They fought for 3 minutes, and while Drow was still stronger, Taemin was smarter. He redirected instead of blocking, evaded instead of tanking hits, and waited for his opening. It came when Drow overcommitted to a heavy strike. Taemin slipped inside his guard and delivered 4 rapid strikes to pressure points Jiwoo had taught him. Drow's leg gave out, and he went down. Before he could rise, Taemin had him in a submission hold. "Yield?" Taemin asked, breathing hard. Drow struggled for a moment, then realized he couldn't escape without breaking his own arm. "I yield. Well fought, human. You have learned much." The match ended. Taemin had advanced to the semifinals. As he left the arena, he saw Jiwoo waiting. She nodded once, approval clear in her eyes. He'd proven that humans could adapt, could learn, could overcome disadvantages through intelligence and determination. But the real test was still to come. The semifinal between Jiwoo and Crow drew the largest crowd of the tournament. Everyone wanted to see this match. The small human female against the massive Skorvath champion. Technique versus power. Adaptation versus tradition. The arena configuration for their match was different. A flat, open space with minimal obstacles. Crow had requested it, and Jiwoo had agreed. This would be as close to a pure fight as possible. They faced each other across the arena. Crow stood nearly 8 feet tall, his bear-like body covered in thick fur and muscle. Jiwoo looked tiny by comparison, barely reaching his chest. But there was no fear in her eyes. "Are you ready?" Krell asked. "Always," Jiwoo replied. The buzzer sounded. Krell didn't charge. He'd learned from watching her earlier fights. Instead, he advanced carefully, his guard up, testing her reactions. Jiwoo circled, studying his movements, looking for patterns. Their first exchange was brief. Krell struck. Jiwoo evaded and countered, then retreated before he could grab her. Neither landed a significant hit. They reset and tried again. The pattern continued for several minutes. Krell would attack, Jiwoo would counter or evade. They would reset. The watching cadets grew restless. They wanted action, wanted to see decisive moves. But both fighters understood what they were really doing, gathering data, learning each other's capabilities. Then Krell changed tactics. He feinted a high strike, then swept low when Jiwoo moved to counter. His massive paw caught her leg and pulled. Jiwoo went down hard, and Krell was on her instantly. For a terrible moment, it looked like the fight was over. Krell's weight pinned her, his strength overwhelming. But Jiwoo didn't panic. She controlled her breathing, conserved energy, and waited. Krell tried to secure a finishing hold, and in that moment, when his position shifted slightly, Jiwoo found her escape. She twisted, using flexibility Krell couldn't match, and slipped free. As she rose, she delivered a strike to his throat. Not enough to seriously injure, but enough to make him cough and create distance. They reset again, but now both had taken damage. Krell's throat hurt, affecting his breathing. Jiwoo's leg throbbed where he grabbed her. The real fight was beginning. What followed was brutal and beautiful. Krell used his strength and reach, forcing Jiwoo to work constantly to stay safe. Jiwoo used precision and speed, striking nerve clusters and joints whenever she found an opening. Neither could gain a decisive advantage. 10 minutes into the fight, both were exhausted. Krell's fur was matted with sweat. Ji-Woo's breathing came in gasps. But neither would quit. Krell launched a final assault, putting everything he had into a combination that would have finished most opponents. Ji-Woo couldn't evade them all. She took a hit to the ribs that cracked bone, took another to her shoulder that numbed her arm. But she stayed on her feet. And then she saw it. Krell had overextended. His final attack left him momentarily unbalanced. Ji-Woo, ignoring her injuries, stepped inside his guard one last time. She couldn't overpower him, couldn't outlast him anymore. So she did what humans do best. She adapted. Instead of striking to hurt, she struck to position. 3 quick hits, each one moving Krell's body slightly, setting up the final technique. Then she swept his legs while simultaneously pushing his upper body, using his own momentum and weight against him. Krell crashed to the mat, and Ji-Woo followed him down, securing a joint lock before he could recover. Her damaged arm screamed in protest, but she held on. "Yield," she gasped. "Yield, or I break your elbow." Krell struggled, tried to power out, then realized he couldn't. The human's technique was perfect. If he forced it, his elbow would snap. He stopped struggling. "I yield," Krell said clearly. "The victory is yours." Ji-Woo released him immediately and collapsed backward, breathing hard. Krell sat up slowly, cradling his arm. They looked at each other for a long moment. Then Krell extended his paw. "You are a worthy warrior," he said. "I understand now. Humans do not fight like us because they are not like us. But that does not make them less. Perhaps it makes them more." Ji-Woo took his paw with her good hand. And Scorvath honor combat is not inferior to human tactics. Just different. We can learn from each other. As medical teams rushed in, the arena erupted in applause. Cadets from dozens of species cheered, not just for the winner, but for both fighters. They'd witnessed something rare, a match where both competitors earned respect. The next day, the Academy held a formal assembly. Commander Thess stood at the center of the Great Hall, his crystalline body refracting light across the gathered cadets. "The grand tournament has concluded," he announced. "We have seen exceptional performances from many species. But I want to address something specific: the human cadets." Taemin and Ji-Woo, standing in the crowd, felt every eye turned toward them. When humans first joined the coalition, we classified them as Category 4, low physical threat. That classification was based on incomplete data. We saw their lack of natural weapons, their fragile bones, their short lifespans. We did not see their determination, their adaptability, their accumulated combat knowledge. Thess gestured, and a holographic display appeared, showing updated information. As of today, humanity's threat classification is being changed to Category 2, significant tactical threat. Furthermore, human combat techniques will be integrated into coalition training programs. Cadets from all species will have the opportunity to learn from human instructors. A murmur ran through the assembly. Category 2 put humans in the same class as Scorvath and Rakdesh, species that have been warrior cultures for thousands of years. But more importantly, Thess continued, humans have taught us a valuable lesson. We have been unified for so long,